Hello, my fellow Civil Libertarians. It's been 4 years since our last in-person annual meeting, so I'm so happy we are finally able to gather in person again. My name is, yes, round of applause for that. My name is Kate Itacy, and I'm the board chair for the ACLU of Rhode Island. I'm an author, a speaker, a disability advocate, and a local true crime podcaster. Though this is my first year as board chair, I've been on and off the board since 2011. I've been the affiliate rep for the National ACLU board. I was a cooperating attorney for the affiliate for a few years, and I've even hosted a few episodes of our affiliate's Rights of a Free People cable access show, which I wish will come back soon. As time goes on, things change, people change, but the ACLU of Rhode Island has been unwavering in the work we do. Every year, our accomplishments exceed the capabilities of such a small affiliate. But as we end our 64th year and prepare to enter our 65th in operation, we remain steadfast and committed to the principled defense of civil rights and civil liberties. As I outline some of our accomplishments for the year, I would like you to keep some information in mind. We surveyed a philanthropic database whose data is relied upon by donors and foundations alike. We looked at different types of ACLU affiliate data, including our own. We found that the average ACLU affiliate has 12 staff members, of which there are 2 legal professionals. Our affiliate has half that, and yet consider these statistics. In the last year alone, our affiliate has litigated or settled over 30 cases. Keep in mind that the average legal case takes about 100 to 150 hours of attorney time. We testified, and I should say really Steve and Hannah testified on over 300 bills in the State House. Since July, we have disseminated over 9,000 English and Spanish pamphlets and brochures at various educational events. Our members have volunteered hundreds of hours being present in the community. We have over 50 cooperating attorneys, along with innumerable paralegals and subject matter experts who donate their time. We have over 4,000 members and supporters, and we have joined forces with over 75 coalition members and agencies this year to continue to work towards a more equitable Rhode Island on such issues as reproductive freedom, immigrant rights, voting rights, and criminal justice reform. While the courts and government continue to chip away at our fundamental civil liberties, overturning long-standing precedents, you show up, our attorneys show up, our partners show up, our volunteers show up, we all show up. We are we the people. The ACLU of Rhode Island has 3 program areas: litigation, legislation, and public education. Within those areas, we cover dozens of issues. Tonight, I would like to highlight our litigation and legislative successes in a handful of those areas. These are issues we have been taking on for decades, but as the ACLU's founder, Roger Baldwin, famously said, no battle for civil liberties ever stays won. So let me take you on a journey through an incredibly busy year, showcasing some of the impact we've had on our beloved Ocean State. We're protecting privacy. In one of the most important legislative victories of the year, we joined coalition forces with 25 other agencies, playing a pivotal role in the successful passage of the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act. This legislation provides Medicaid coverage for abortions and ensures state employee health insurance covers this crucial procedure. We additionally fought for privacy in expanding our class action lawsuit against RIPTA, addressing a data breach that compromised the personal and health care information of thousands of affected individuals. We're preserving voting rights. Every vote matters, and we defended this principle vigorously when the State Board of Elections tried to eliminate the counting of most write-in votes. We also stood alone in successfully opposing a bill aimed at stripping voting rights from any person who is alleged to have engaged in vaguely defined insurrection or sedition. The bill was well-intentioned, but would have set a dangerous precedent that could be applied to suppress democratic participation across a wide range of political ideologies. Again, we appreciate all the work that Secretary of State Amore has done in support of voting rights during his time in office. We're upholding First Amendment rights. Free speech is the cornerstone of democracy and of the ACLU's mission, and we fiercely defended it this year. Like the rest of the country, we confronted book censorship threats and helped defeat a bill that sought to send librarians to prison for providing vital information to minors. More recently, we ensured that residents' voices were not silenced when they sought accountability from the representatives. We obtained a court order against Warwick City officials who sought to silence a local resident from raising concerns at a city council meeting about the ethical conduct of one of its members. We're advocating for open government. Transparency is another essential element of democracy, necessary to hold officials accountable for their actions, and we fought for it relentlessly this year. We demanded access to vital information through a number of open records lawsuits, including most recently a suit against Providence for withholding from the public the bidding documents involved in a controversial school contract. We also issued a report that examined whether, post-COVID, municipalities were still allowing the public to access meetings remotely. As a result of our findings, we urged policy revisions to promote the public's right to participate in governmental affairs more easily, and we have found that some municipalities have taken our recommendations to heart. We're championing prison and criminal justice reform. As you'll soon hear when we present our Civil Libertarian Award to Sonja Deyoe, we stood strong as advocates for the incarcerated, including juvenile offenders, in our ongoing efforts to ensure justice and fairness in our criminal justice system. Those efforts included a court-approved agreement placing limitations on the cruel practice of solitary confinement and ensuring more humane treatment within the ACI. We defend students' rights. Every child deserves a fair and equal education, and we fought against injustices in the school setting. We obtained a court victory on behalf of a special education student who was physically assaulted by a school resource officer without cause. And we released an updated report to continue to shed light on unacceptable racial disparities and out-of-school suspensions, paving the way for a legislative solution we hope to see enacted in 2024. We're combating police misconduct. Accountability is essential in law enforcement, and we tirelessly lobbied against bills that could shield officers engaged in wrongdoing. And we're working to promote a proactive legislative agenda in 2024 to codify important police reform measures. They include addressing the rightly discredited law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights and promoting greater public access to records of police misconduct. We're advancing disability rights. Our commitment to the most vulnerable among us led to impactful litigation in this area. Thanks to work from our second Civil Libertarian of the Year, Saideman, we secured interim relief for young children with disabilities who are being denied critical educational services. And along with our great partners at Rhode Island Legal Services, we filed a series of complaints against school districts that caused serious injuries to elementary school children who were subjected to unlawful physical restraints. We promote equal protection of the laws, Discrimination has no place in our society, but is ever present. This year, we secured substantial damages on behalf of a professional cleaning service employee who lost her job after the company learned she was pregnant. And we sued the state in support of homeless protesters who camped outside the State House to draw attention to their plight. And when proposed ordinances sought to stifle artistic expression by banning drag shows, we were there to stop them. I hope this selective summary of our work so far in 2023 gives you a good idea of how active we've been, how successful we've been, and how your support allows us to be so successful, because the challenges never stop. And that leads us to the next part of the program, where we honor some of the people who ensure that those challenges don't stop. We all know the hardships and continued perpetuation of inequities that bombard us each day, but this evening is also about celebration. Our stellar legal reputation and our court victories wouldn't be possible without the commitment of dozens of volunteer attorneys who assist us with our work. And we're here tonight to honor two of them as Civil Libertarians of the Year, Sonja Deyoe and Saideman. Here to introduce Sonja Deyoe is longtime cooperating attorney Lynette Labinger, a steadfast ACLU supporter and a former Civil Libertarian of the Year herself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to see you all in person. It's great. We're here to recognize, can everyone hear me okay? Recognize Saideman and Sonja Deyoe for their tireless and expert work as cooperating attorneys as the Raymond J. Patine Civil Libertarian of the Year. I have the pleasure of introducing Sonja, a true Renaissance person who I've had the good fortune of working with for many years. Sonja has been practicing law in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts for over 20 years. She's a graduate of Roger Williams University School of Law, and after graduation, she was a law clerk for the Connecticut Superior Courts. For almost a decade, Sonja has been handling cases as an ACLU cooperating attorney, most often dealing with the rights of the incarcerated. Her work for the affiliate included lawsuits that ultimately led to the successful overturning of Rhode Island's civil death statute. And on that one, tireless is probably an understatement. Dogged, wouldn't give up, took every defeat and kept going. I know I saw this, and we just kept working on it, and she got it done. That civil death statute, which made Rhode Island unique, not in the past, but these days, meant that someone serving a life sentence was deprived of any civil rights, couldn't file a lawsuit. Thanks to Sonja's work, this major step forward in criminal justice reform was possible. Her other ongoing cases with the ACLU include challenging the inhumane use of solitary confinement at the ACI, and 4 cases challenging the state's harsh interpretation of Mario's law, a recently enacted state statute designed to give juvenile offenders with lengthy sentences the opportunity to be considered for release earlier on parole. The state has basically claimed doesn't mean anything. In addition to her legal work, Sonja was a member of the U.S. Air Force Reserve, being deployed overseas on 2 separate occasions before she retired in 2014. Presently, in addition to everything else, she serves as chair of the Board of Disability Rights Rhode Island and is also studying at Harvard to obtain a master's degree in religious studies. And in her spare time, and I don't know where she finds it, her hobbies include the impressive practices of blacksmithing and glass blowing. Please help me welcome Sonja to the podium.
See, now you get to listen to me. So, I remember being in my second year in law school, and I'm standing in my kitchen in Bristol, Rhode Island, and I'm having a discussion with my mother on the phone, and I'm talking about how it is that I want to come and I want to help the Rhode Island ACLU and do some civil rights matters. My mother promptly told me that I was wasting my time and my money. My response could be summed up by one thing: she is not here today. And all of you are. I don't talk about my motivations for doing this work very often. But what it comes down to me are a couple of different things. One is, I am no different than the people that we serve through this organization. I'm not a prisoner, I haven't murdered anybody, haven't stolen large sums of money, but you know, I could have. And I don't mean that as a joke. I mean, I think that things can happen to each and every one of us where we end up at a place where we get desperate and we do desperate things to help our families. And for me, I'm really aware that that's where I could have ended up. The second thing is I think it's important to give back. I served 22 years in our military, and during that period, I guess, was willing to give my life for the rights and freedoms that we're talking about here today. Somewhere in that time, I took an oath to protect and defend our Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That did not go away upon my retirement. In furtherance of those values and beliefs, my work with the Rhode Island ACLU on the civil death matters, on the Morris case, the Centron case, and Mario's loss cases have all just been wonderful. What Lynette didn't say is that my victory in the civil death matter, where we had the statute declared unconstitutional, was in no part assisted by her in a brief that she drafted as an amicus curiae that went up to the Supreme Court. It was a group effort. What became clear to me is that there are something like 220 to 240 individuals who are currently held at the Rhode Island ACI who have life sentences. And under the decision of the Rhode Island Supreme Court, none of them were allowed any civil liberties. They couldn't go to court, they couldn't file an action in our state courts, they couldn't get married, they couldn't get divorced, they couldn't own property. And it was really unclear what happened when they were released, because even with a life sentence, most of these individuals are eventually released. Well, what does that do to their rights then, right? And I'm really glad that I was able to participate and make that happen, although it did, as Lynette said, took me 10 years. Worth noting is also the Morris cases that we're presently involved with, for a couple of reasons. One is that was Judge Patine, whose award I'm getting here today, which is very ironic. Judge Patine was the original judge that heard the Morris matter back in the 1960s and was a big part of why conditions at the prisons changed in the 70s. But I'll also add that in the Morris matters, what we've done here, I have to say, almost seemed to be impossible. We have managed to decrease solitary confinement to less than 30 days. In most instances, actually, it's less than 15, because as we define solitary confinement, it is not leaving your cell for more than 2 hours in a day. And after 15 days, you're able to leave for more than 2 hours a day. So to my mind, solitary confinement is limited really to 15 days in Rhode Island. Better than that, what we help negotiate is something called the restorative housing program, which will hopefully give the inmates who end up in solitary confinement or have otherwise discipline problems, hopefully it will allow them to get the skills they need both to get through their time in prison, but also go out and be effective citizens when they're released. With respect to the Mario's Law cases, what we're doing as an organization is so important. There's been study after study that says that individuals who are less than 26 years of age don't have their brain fully formed yet. And so the law that we have and what we're doing is trying to help individuals that committed these crimes, sometimes when they were 16, 17 years old, and have already served 20 years in prison, the ability to come out and contribute to society, that is so important. They just don't have the same level of culpability that somebody would that committed these sorts of crimes when they were in their 30s or 40s. I think that beyond those things, there's not a lot else that I want to touch on. I do want to say that I'm very grateful to do the work that I do for this organization. I am very proud of the results that we're getting, and I hope that I'm able to contribute for many years. Thank you. There it is. There we are. Thank you.
Congrats again. Thank you both for doing such incredible work on such important issues. Solitary confinement is such a terrible effect on one's mental health. And obviously, being a juvenile offender shouldn't dictate what the rest of the course of your life is. We want to thank you so much, Sonja, for all the work you've done, and thank you for committing to do more hard work in the future. Just a reminder, if you do have a question for us for the Q&A session, please remember to fill out your index card, and members of the staff will be coming around to pick them up.
First, I have to say that one of the great joys of working for the ACLU, for me, has been working with my co-counsel that I've worked with the ACLU. They've all been, so getting to know them and working with them has been one of the joys of my life. So I do want to thank Christine and Lynette, Jen Wood, Veronica Codd, Amy Tate, great advice. He also did special ed in Rhode Island, so that's also been very helpful. I've admired the ACLU as long as I can remember. I worked with the ACLU Reproductive Rights Project when I worked in New York for NYLPI. And before I even started working in Florida, I went to the Florida ACLU annual conference. Of course, what was most memorable about that conference was the fact it was cut short because of Hurricane Andrew. And we had to get back to Miami to get ready for the hurricane. And of course, so I was really thrilled when we moved to Rhode Island, and I learned that we had a very active ACLU chapter here, and I began working on doing some pro bono work, I guess, fairly early on. But when I started my own practice, I had more opportunity to do more work. I think Rhode Island's ACLU affiliate is very unusual nationally because of the nature of the work that I've done. I think, as many of you may know, in the 1990s, Congress changed the law and prevented legal services programs from doing class actions if they got federal funds. And that was a major blow to work on behalf of poor people nationwide. And in some larger states, the legal services program split up between federally funded legal services programs and other programs that could do class actions. But Rhode Island is a really small state, and so it was the ACLU that has stepped into the breach and provided the opportunity to do federal class actions on public benefits work. And I think that's really important. And I think, one of the things that I've learned through the class action work I've done is how important it really is. I think about the first case I did, which was a Medicare case about people not getting proper notice for getting their benefits cut from Part B. And anyway, we spent a lot of time working with Christian Bath and other people, talking to people at the legal services, looking for clients. Finally, we found 2 clients. I filed the case, and before there was even time to answer, the state of Rhode Island had provided back benefits for over 700 people. Because what happens is, the number of people who will call and complain is very small. But the number you can help with a class action can be very large because you get benefits for every one of those people. And that's why class actions and public benefits are so important. And, we did have another national disaster. I was working with the ACLU here, which was COVID, and I was really, I was saddened, unfortunate, to learn that the Department of Labor and training cut off people's benefits, unemployment benefits at a time when people couldn't find other jobs because of the work of an algorithm that made them think they were not legitimate people entitled to benefits. And we have, I worked tirelessly with Lynette, and I will say, and we got the benefits restored to thousands of people, and it made a huge difference, and in their lives to have those benefits. And I think, the most recent case I did, the preschool case, has also made a huge difference. 290 children, they say, are now getting special ed services and programs as of for the start of the school year. Hundreds more are going to be getting evaluated and get services, and it makes an enormous difference. So, I just think it's really wonderful the work the ACLU does, and I'm proud to be a part of it, and I hope to, like Sonja, continue doing it for many more years.
Congratulations again to Ellen and Sonja, and thank you again for all the work you do. And I had Professor Margulies about 16 years ago for ethics, and so that's an incredible family. How about another round of applause for these two incredible individuals? Your dedication to and tireless advocacy for civil rights represent the best of the profession. And through your work as ACLU cooperating attorneys, you've ensured that justice prevailed even in the face of adversity. At this time, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Steve Brown, to help answer the questions you have. Does anyone have any questions that you did not get a chance to submit? Oh, Debbie has
hold them in the air.
Oh,
I'm not Steve Brown, sorry. I don't know how obvious that is, actually. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Stern. I'm the Policy Associate at the ACLU of Rhode Island. We're just going to do a quick Q&A portion before we get to the final part of our program. But I do just want to say again, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much to Sonja and to Ellen for your work. If you work with me, you know that I'm a sentimental crier. Sorry, Steve. But I really was truly so moved to hear the breadth of the work that both of you have done and that you continue to do. I think that I feel like I get a lot out of our annual meeting also, actually, because I think sometimes when you're in the thick of this work, it's really hard to step back and see that things do change, that these efforts really do add up. But I just am really inspired by both of your work, and so thank you so much to both of you again. Did anyone have any questions that they wrote down other than that, or do we just have a few to go through? All right. So let's see.
Do you need me to decipher the writing?
We need a handwriting expert, even though the ACLU does not support those. Ironically, we do need them for our Q&A. All right, this might be a good question for Steve, actually. How does the ACLU decide what cases to take on? Sorry, Megan.
Well, there's no simple answer to that. We have a legal committee that meets once a month after the staff has reviewed the complaints that have come in and weeded out the obviously non-civil liberties cases. The criteria are flexible. One key criterion that we don't have is any sort of income level. We don't look at whether somebody can afford an attorney. What we're really looking for in most instances, are cases where filing a lawsuit will have a significant impact either on the law or on a number of people at the same time. So Alan was talking about the importance of class action lawsuits. So if there's a case where that will only affect one person if we win, we're much less likely to handle it than if we can handle one that involves a lot of people, that we can get help for a lot of people. Other than that, it's really looking at, does this raise a core civil liberties issue? How likely is it that we'll be able to succeed if we bring the suit? And how much of a useful precedent will it set? So again, there's nothing hard and fast, but those are some of the general criteria we use, and hopefully you read about a lot of the successes we have using those very flexible criteria.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so we have another question, which may be most relevant for Ellen or Sonja, if you don't mind maybe re-entering the stage. Could you share an example of a challenging case you worked on recently, and what legal strategies did you employ to overcome any obstacles? If either of you have an answer right away. If you don't, that's fine, we can revisit it at the end.
I think the preschool case was challenging because of the tight timeline that we had. And, you know, part of the problem in these cases is assembling all the evidence and everything you need in the right timetable. And I think one of the things that we did have that was very helpful for us was we had the first day of school as a goal. So we had a time that we could focus everybody's attention on, both the defendants and the school district. And the state Department of Education. I think one of the things I usually do in my cases, we did in this, is do a demand letter in advance so that we set the record that we've tried to resolve the case. And that helps us, I think, with the judges. They like to see that you've tried to resolve things and you're not like first shooting from your hip and going to court first thing you do. So we did that. We had meetings with the school district. And then we encouraged Judge McElroy to consider mediating the case herself because she didn't, apparently the magistrate she worked with was too busy. So Lynette, I think, and I encouraged her to do that. And I think the success in resolving this through negotiation is something that might inspire her to do more mediation in the future. So I think being flexible, being willing to having a set of what your bottom line is, which is that we needed the kids who were eligible for preschool and had IEPs to be in school and have their classes September 1st, first day of school, was very helpful as a goal. But it was also very reasonable, it was what they were required. So I mean, I think that focusing on, what's a realistic, reasonable goal and what's a good timeline is good. I think trying to resolve things is good.
Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. We just have one more question, which I'm also going to throw to Steve, if that's okay. I got to preview it, so I know who may be best suited to answer these. Our city councilor, Miguel Sanchez, was fired, as you probably know. Should he approach the ACLU for representation if he hasn't already?
Okay. I think most people are aware of what happened. Miguel Sanchez worked as a constituent services associate for the governor. And on social media, his personal social media account, he made some comments and statements about the Mideast war that were somewhat controversial to some people. And the immediate reaction, or almost immediate reaction from the governor's office was to fire him. We got a lot of inquiries about that, whether what the governor did was constitutional. What we've done so far is we did issue a statement raising concerns about the governor's actions and asking him, at a minimum, to explain the reasons for the firing. Our position is the mere fact that he said some things that might be controversial, that might even be contrary to the governor's own positions, being done on private time and private social media was not in and of itself, should not in and of itself be a reason to fire somebody. They should show that there was actually some disruption that occurred as a result of him taking this stand. The governor's office has not done that yet, so we will be figuring out in the next few weeks whether there is more that can or should be done. It's not an open and shut case by any means, but obviously on its face, it raises some important civil liberties issues, and we'll be looking into them.
Great, thank you. Well, I think that that's going to take us to the last part of our program, and Steve and I are just doing a very quick mic swap here, because I'm actually going to ask him to come up one more time. Again, this is Stephen Brown, our Executive Director, to start off the last part of our program.
Sorry, I should have just kept you up there.
Thank you, Hannah. So I hope that by listening to the awards, the speakers, by listening to Kate's speech, talking about some of the many victories we've had this past year, I hope that you're able to make a direct connection between what we do and the support you provide, because it's only because of your support that we are in fact able to do as much as we can do. You heard not just from two great cooperating attorneys who got awards, we heard from four. The two presenters are also tremendous cooperating attorneys of dozens that we have who handle our litigation program. And I want to emphasize that because when we win a big case, including many that you've heard tonight, I'm the person who's usually congratulated. People come up to me and say, "Oh, that was a great case you did." And as Ellen noted, I play a lawyer on TV. I never argued a case. I've never actually won a case. But because I am often the face of the ACLU, I'm the one who gets the congratulations, and it's not fair. I have the easiest job compared to all the people who are putting in the dozens and hundreds of hours to win cases, all the volunteers otherwise who help do our work. And the same thing is we've honored these four civil libertarian lawyers. What I want to end the evening with is honoring our four civil libertarian staff as well, because it's the same thing. Again, I sort of get the credit for things, but everything that happens is really the result of my staff. They operate in the background. They don't get the attention that they deserve. Sometimes even from me, they'll say. But we are not able to do, I'm not able to do as much as takes place here in Rhode Island in behalf of civil liberties, other than because of the fantastic staff I have. And so I think balancing the four attorneys with the four staff to end the evening is the appropriate thing to do. I'm going to start by introducing Megan Kachadorian, who has been working at the office for many years. Her job description essentially is doing everything that nobody else does. I think that pretty much sums it up. Like me, she is an unlicensed attorney who has been disbarred by complainants dozens of times. She's also an unlicensed social worker. She has the unenviable task, among the many tasks she has, of having to answer the phone from people who have complaints, seeking our help, and sometimes those complainants can engage in a little vitriol, can throw out some nasty words if we aren't able to help them, and somehow she's managed to do that for years, and that is really an incredible task. And I just want to go back to the thing about always getting credit. There are a number, any year, there are a number of people who will come up to me and thank me for how I help them. So I ask them their name. I know we have never helped this person at all. What they're talking about is, most likely, in most of those instances, they picked up the phone, they called because they had a problem. Megan patiently listened to them. She probably gave them the name of another organization that might be able to help. And the lasting effect, though, is the person is thankful for the ACLU for what they did. So even beyond the cases we handle and the successes we have in court and legislature, There are these other little things that are going on that the staff is doing to also help. And so with that, I hope you'll give me a hand, and we're going to have Megan Cacciatori speak for a minute.
I don't know how to follow that. You stole some of my thunder, because I was going to say you might be an unlicensed lawyer, but I've been disbarred. So, and much like Christine, I feel like I have to stand to the side to be seen. But 17th annual meeting planned, first time speaker, so hi everyone. I feel like I drew the short straw having to go first for the staff. I may have been here the longest, but I don't know that I necessarily feel like I belong up here. Steve really gave a great introduction into what I do. On paper, I'm his assistant, so my name tag says it. But when you've been at the ACLU for 17 years, I think he and I are probably duking it out to see who can outlast who at this point. Your duties change over time, but when I first walked into the ACLU office, in our old office, and I see a number of people in this audience who know our second floor office versus our new digs. I walked into an office and Steve was there to greet me with a folder full of paperwork, and then quickly told me it was just he and I who were going to be working together for a while. We were looking to fill the one and only other position we had on the staff, which was a policy associate. So it was just Steve and I for a couple of months, I think, which probably is why we're still together. And then shortly after he gave me that paperwork and told me we were going to be fast friends, he said, "You have to plan an annual meeting in 6 weeks." So that was a fast lesson in ACLU life, I think. But I've been here for 17 years and I've seen a tremendous growth in our office. The work has pretty much stayed the same. We've probably increased our workload. But thankfully, I've seen the staff grow 3 times to the size it is now from what it was when I started. We have 2 new positions along with our policy associate. We have a communications associate, and we have a development associate, a new position that we added just this year. And so many hands make light work, even at the ACLU, which can seem daunting at times. Why do I stay? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. No, when you work at the ACLU, everything sort of changes. Your perspective, the way you look at the world, and it's kind of hard to think about how you go back to looking at the world any other way. Civil liberties is not for the faint of heart. You know, it's not an easy battle. It's not the cleanest. It's sometimes messy. You oftentimes are having to justify your positions on very simple and easy things to you to understand, but making somebody else come around is not always the easiest. And those phone calls are fun, you know. They're not fun to be in at the moment, but we joke about them afterwards. I don't have the best title, so we all sort of share our favorite insults after we get off the call. But I can't imagine working anywhere else. I can't imagine working for anyone else. And so I'm really happy that I survived a Steve Brown interview, which for those of you in this office who've gone through one, that's a feat in of itself. I've met incredible people, I've learned incredible things, and I plan on being back for yet another annual meeting, I think, next year, so hopefully you will be too. Big year, 65 coming up, so I hope again to see all of you there. But I have the distinct pleasure of handing the microphone off to Hannah Stern, our policy associate, who probably spends maybe more time with Steve than I do, and so we should all clap for that. But thank you all for listening to me. Thank you all for coming. It's great to see everybody in person again, and I'm going to hand the microphone off.
it's me again. Thank you again, all of you, for coming. I really appreciate it. If you want a little treat, I will tell you one thing that I was called on the phone the other day, which was a cold-hearted narcissist. So that's just a little sneak peek into some of the comments we get on the phone sometimes. That may be one of the tamer ones. But I'm just really excited to talk to you all today. It was funny because when we were going over what we were all going to talk about, I had a hard time thinking about it because I feel like I speak at a lot of the events, so I was kind of like, I don't really know what about my job I haven't talked about. But then it occurred to me that there is actually a huge part of my position that we don't really get to talk about a lot of these events, which the annual meeting is the perfect receptacle for, which is that we do so much public outreach and educational outreach that I think a lot of people would be kind of astounded to know, again, the breadth of that. And one of the true joys of my position is that I get to field endless, and I mean endless actually in a positive way here. The tone of that is positive. But I field endless emails from students, from high school students who are so excited to learn about civil liberties, from college students who may have been taking a class and were doing some research and found our affiliate and found some work that we did on something one time and they want to know more about it and they want to interview us. It is such a joy for me to talk to these students. They're so excited. They really remind me of what is so exciting about civil liberties, what is so exciting about policy, like really the possibility of it all, the imagination that you need to work in policy, and I don't know, it's just really fun. And so I end up doing a lot of class visits as well. I had the honor of doing 2 presentations on the First Amendment for Banned Books Week at an elementary school this year, which really, I was like, again, I'm a sentimental crier, but at the end I was like in my car like, oh, I can't believe this is my job. I've done presentations on voting rights at elementary schools. Just this week I went to a class at Brown University and I did a lecture on reproductive rights in Rhode Island and the state of reproductive rights across the country. I've worked with a number of amazing college students who come to us because they're interested in policy, and I get to take them up to the State House and they testify for the first time. I don't know if you can see, but I literally have goosebumps. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is my favorite part of my job, but it really just, it's so inspiring to me. I feel so lucky that I get to do this. I feel so lucky that I get to introduce people to civil liberties. And I'm just really happy to have gotten to share that with you all today. So I have the pleasure now of bringing up Zoe Chicoyan, who's one of our newest staff members, our communications associate. If you've seen any of the wonderful emails that go out, they're from her. So I'm very excited to bring her up and introduce her to you all now. Thank you so much.
Everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. As Hannah said, my name is Zoe Chicoyan, and I'm the new Communications Associate. So it was a large part of my responsibility to get the word out about this annual meeting, and I am so grateful you are here for that reason, and just for all this amazing work that has been done. I very quickly want to introduce myself and my role. I moved to Rhode Island after growing up in Wisconsin, and then I moved to Western Massachusetts for school. And I've been in the nonprofit realm for about 5 years as a communication generalist. When I joined the ACLU this past March, just about 8 months ago, I got a crash course about Rhode Island, about the legislative and the legal work that we do, and I learned a lot of acronyms very quickly. I also got a new perspective because while I wasn't oblivious to the ACLU's work by any means, I didn't understand until I was in the office the sheer number of inquiries and questions and concerns that people call and that we receive and address, as you've just heard about. And this sort of small day-to-day issues that we resolve and how that fits into the context of the decades of work. The way I see it, my job in communications is in part to be a bridge between everything we do and all of you. It's a job of synthesis in part. It's a job of understanding what's happening in the background, be it breaking news or months of the legislative session, and trying to translate that information to something that is cohesive for the public and really makes clear how crucial all of this work is. And really my job is a wonderful challenge. So as Hannah mentioned, if you see any content from us, whether it's online, in your email boxes, or any print materials, please imagine it's just me right here handing it to you. My personal update from us to you about the work we're doing, an event we're hosting, or a call to action so you can take part in the active protection of civil liberties. So thank you again for being here. I'm really honored to be here as a part of this organization. This office is filled with really brilliant, hardworking, and dedicated people. And I'm really excited to join in this sort of the cycle of ongoing work. So with that, I will introduce Monica Smith, who is our new development associate. We started about the same time. So it's been a lovely time getting to know everyone.
I said earlier today that microphones terrify me because they usually do feedback, and I'm so much more comfortable like this, but I'll use it because everyone can hear me now. Hello everybody, I'm the development associate. Zoe and I did start pretty close together. I was about a month after her. I am here at the ACLU because I'm pissed off and grateful, if that makes any sense. So when I was presented with the opportunity to interview with the job, I knew that the ACLU Foundation of Rhode Island was the perfect place for both my anger and my skill set. I have over 20 years working in the nonprofit field, master's level education in public administration. I'm also a person in long-term recovery that has navigated these systems that our generous cooperating attorneys have fought so hard for people like me. I'm also the person who had the lived experience that was calling the agencies trying to find the help. And I am pretty cynical about my job, but most of the time I get the pleasure of really getting to be the positive voice because everybody else is so much more cynical. It puts me on I get to be oppositional by being positive. So that's a bit of a new role for me to play in, but I really enjoy it. I just want to take note that at least probably once every few weeks, I have a moment in the office where whether it's a phone call or a conversation, something that I hear happening, I know is specific and relevant to the lives of people that I love or to myself. And I just take a moment and I say thank you and I tear up a little bit. I have so much, but damn gratitude to work with so many powerful people that freely give up their time and their expertise in a culture where that's not the norm. So I really just thank you so much. I'd also like to bring you back to point to some of those numbers that Kate talked about earlier. We are a small affiliate, 5 people when the average is 12. We have over 30 cases litigated, over 300 bills testified on, 9,000 pieces of material distributed since July alone. And I just would like to ask you, just imagine what we could do with more. That's my segue into I wouldn't be an appropriate development associate if I didn't provide an ask for the evening. You've heard about all of our programs, litigation, legislation. Hannah has joyously shared her experience molding the future of civil libertarians and what that looks like in both elementary, middle, and college levels. On your table, you'll see a QR code, and there are some donation envelopes. We have some board members here tonight. If you could raise your hand. They're probably scattered throughout the room, and we also have staff. I would like, if you are able to make a donation to support the work that we've done, if you would like to have a conversation about supporting us at a more substantial level, we are welcome to do that. We are able to do that. Please take a moment and find a board member and a staff person so that when you make your donation, you're able to turn it in, or you can use the QR code. And I just really want to say thank you. We accept 0 state funding. And this is the perfect place for my anger because your funding does not restrict the work that we do. Thank you very much for being here.
inspired by not only just our two honorees and all of our cooperating attorneys, but this incredible staff. And Hannah, your joy is infectious. But all of your hard work that you do, including Steve, who always likes to downplay his work and role, to know how hard they work and how many obstacles they face, and yet to see their continued inspiration and joy and fierceness when it comes to protecting everyone's civil rights and civil liberties is really inspiring. So I strongly encourage you to meet and greet with our staff, any of us board members if you'd like to chat with us, and continue to mingle. And thank you all for coming. That is the end of our program, and hopefully we will see you at some of our events for the 65th that are starting in January. Thank you very much.
We can unlock the doors now.